Hi, everyone, and welcome to another live edition of the Ethicast, coming to you from Atlanta at the 16th Annual Global Ethics Summit. Special shout out to everybody who's attending virtually from around the world. In this episode, I'm here with Daniel Zmak of Diligence. Daniel, why don't you tell me what brings you to Global Ethics Summit?
Well, thanks for having me, Bill. It's good to be here. So I just to introduce myself, I am the Senior Director of Product Marketing for our compliance and ethics products at Diligent. Nobody really knows what that means. I hardly know. But I'm in all sorts of the business and really focused on making sure that we're really delivering things of value to our clients that help them grow and strategize around their compliance programs. Today we're talking about third-party risk management, so that'll be the topic today.
Indeed.
But I've been with Diligent in some form or another, and in this space for the past 10 years. I've had the pleasure of working directly with many clients when it either just sort of advising or even helping them implement their software to help them stand up their third-party risk management program. So thank you for having me again.
It's a pleasure to have you. My first question is, global regulatory expectations around third-party risk management seem to be increasingly divergent, especially when we consider different demands by regulators around areas like cybersecurity, data privacy, and ESG. What does the current regulatory environment tell you? And more importantly, what signals are you seeing it send to ethics and compliance teams?
Yeah, some mixed signals, right? I mean, it's
at best, right?
At best. I mean, I think you can talk about that in sort of two different ways. I mean, you mentioned there are different requirements for different aspects of third-party risk management. There are also just divergent. I would say enforcement, not so much regulatory requirements. When you take a look at something like anti-bribery, anti-corruption, I mean, you look at what happened with this administration announcing they're no longer going to be enforcing the FCPA, right?
Sure.
So you have divergent enforcement trends from that respect as well, and that's, I think, just to answer that first, I think that is sort of the elephant in the room in a lot of conversations that I'm having around third-party risk management. Because what does that mean when an authority says we're no longer going to focus on enforcing this? And this is, I think, has spooked quite a lot of people. And so that is something that I constantly ask any client of mine that I have. What are you doing? And I think the good news on this topic is everybody that I talk to says we're not changing anything. Right. And there are a couple of good reasons for that. One being that it's still the law. Right. I heard somebody yesterday say that, the DOJ, this administration, they got rid of the stick. And I said, well, they didn't get rid of the stick. They put it away in the tool shed. It's still there. The stick's still there. And by the way, that's just in one house. The house next door across the street,
right?
They're still using all the tools that they're using. And by the way, and there's still a statute of limitations. So in a few years, that statute of limitations is going to outlast this administration. The new owner of that house, they're going to have that. They're going to have that tool to use.
Sure.
But I think that sort of also speaks to the initial premise of your question, which is, there's diverging regulatory requirements. I think what we're seeing is, especially from an EMEA standpoint, and an EU standpoint, a reactionary place when it comes to the new emerging regulations that we see around not only, and I'm sure we'll see more enforcement around anti-bribery and anti-corruption from the UK and from France and from other places overseas, but also around supply chain due diligence, sustainability due diligence, with CSDDD, for instance. So we're starting to see much more of a stick approach, many more sticks, many more tools in the tool shed. They're taken out of the tool shed over there. And I think time will tell when it comes to enforcement. But the best advice and again, not really my advice, but the thing I hear most often when I speak to compliance officers is it's easier to maintain one set of policies and procedures within a company, even if you are a global organization, even if you're a federated organization. to the highest standard, so that you don't have there may be divergent regulatory regulations, recommendations, etc. There may be divergent enforcement trends. That doesn't mean you should have divergent policies and procedures in house, right? And you're only cheating yourself if you do. That would be, I think, a lot less efficient. Right. So that's what I'm hearing when I speak to people in this space.
Yeah. There has been an awful lot of commentary around recent requirements for organizations to look deeper into their supply chains than ever before. But this is not the only challenge on the TPRM landscape. So what are some of the emerging risks around third parties that you're seeing? And to what extent do these call for novel ethics and compliance solutions?
Yeah, I think that's really interesting, because supply chain seems to be top of mind for a lot of folks, especially around human rights and modern day slavery. And from a regulatory standpoint, this is going to be an interesting area to look at or to watch across the world. Certainly you see it trending more and more from the EU with CSDDD, of course. But this also is, I think, if you look at the Uyghur Forced Labor Protection Act, and or as my dear friend Christy Grant Hart calls it, UFLIPA, which I like. It helps me keep the letters in order.
Sure.
It's a good one. That I think is going to be interesting to watch, because this administration in the U.S., it's no secret, has a thing for China. This could be a really interesting tool for them to use beyond sanctions, beyond tariffs. And there are such stringent requirements when it comes to the burden of proof of not having any of that forced labor in your supply chain. But I think from another standpoint, it's just the reason why I keep hearing more and more about supply chain is not only that it seems to be more salient from a regulatory respect, but that, I mean, with these tariffs and with even the aftermath of COVID, with all the supply chain shifts, there's still a lot of uncertainty around how operationally organizations should be thinking about resilience in their supply chain and the anticipation of supply chains shifting due to these new geopolitical dynamics. Again, not only wars overseas, not only pandemics, but also from a tariff standpoint. I mean, this is going to disrupt supply chains, I think, quite a bit. And when you know that there's going to be supply chain disruption, that is, or change, and a big change, that's rife for misconduct, whether that be any sort of corruption, financial crimes, bribery, or slavery within the supply chain. It's now, I think it's going to be more important than ever to know when these things happen, when these shifts happen, especially in large numbers or in large volumes, to know who you're doing business with and that you can trust them. And that leads, I think, to the next risk, which is, I think your question was like, what else besides supply chain? But I'm answering it from the standpoint of, I just keep hearing about supply chain as being a salient issue, topic. But the next risk is a reputational risk, right? And I think it's just consumers nowadays, especially if you're in manufacturing consumer goods, but also if you're in industries that have to, I mean, most companies nowadays have to protect their image, but I mean, you think about pharmaceutical industries, or the pharmaceutical industry, pharmaceutical companies, and you think about oil and gas. I mean, it's really tenuous right now with the way that consumers view these industries, view these brands, and care about the things that they're buying. And so, and of course, information of any bad thing that happens is going to spread, and you have to hope that doesn't go viral, right? And that you have to hope that you can you have the mitigation measures in place,
Yeah.
so that you're indemnifying yourself as a company. You know who you're doing business with. You are navigating those risks appropriately, and you have an actionable plan after the fact in case something does happen. To maybe it's just a good PR plan, but to reshore, protect your reputation, right? So that's what I keep hearing. But certainly the other thing that I keep hearing about is AI. That's a big concern. I think
huge.
There's a big question mark around that.
Indeed. So real quick, last question is, TPRM does not live in a vacuum. So what advice do you have for E&C teams as they manage their TPRM remit as part of a holistic risk management strategy?
Yeah, and thank you for that question, Bill. I think that's a really good question, because the way that I see it, just talking to many clients around their program, and not just what they're doing, I think we're not quite there yet to view third-party risk management holistically with some of the other stakeholders and departments. I think operationally, if you look at IT vendor risk management, that has sat with a CISO or under a different risk owner within the company, right? And they have their own process, and then compliance has managed things like anti-bribery risk, and of course supply chain becoming more salient now. I'm hearing more and more compliance officers are telling me they're just being tasked with the ESG component and sustainability component. So I see where this is going. I see it starting to merge, but also just talking to these different stakeholders, I see the alignment and the through line through all of it, which is the process of understanding who you're doing business with, understanding what the risks are, focusing your attention on mitigation strategies, and then documenting the acceptance of that risk and monitoring of it. It's really all the same across all of these different groups and these different stakeholders, right? The CISO might be worried about or might be approaching it from, first and foremost from a business criticality standpoint, might have a different process for then selecting vendors and assessing risk. Right. But it's really, and I would argue that compliance officers should also be taking into account business criticality, because I think, and just maybe a quick aside, a quick plug, at Diligent, we're mostly well known for our boards product. Like we help our clients connect the board through compliance. I mean, compliance is about good governance. Good governance includes compliance as a business strategy. And so that's what I mean when we should be thinking about business criticality. We should be thinking about business strategy when you're approaching any compliance activity, right? Because it can be a strategy for the business, especially in a strategic area like third-party risk management. Anytime there's risk, the flip side of that, the other side of that coin is opportunity, which means that there's opportunity for the business. So, but the processes again is largely the same. Why would you want, when you're saying, hey, we have to assess risk, we have to gather information from the vendor or third party, reassess risk, identify a mitigation strategy, document approval and acceptance of that risk, and then set them up for ongoing monitoring. No matter what third party you're managing, no matter if you're coming at that from an IT risk standpoint or regulatory compliance standpoint or reputational risk standpoint, that process is the same. Why do you want that separated in different systems or different processes? You're going to be much more successful, and you'll be able to manage third-party risk management as a business strategy if you have that all in one place. And so that's kind of where I see things headed now. And then again, I think the next thing over the hump, over the hill is AI, right? But it's when a whole other conversation. That's a whole other to quote the comedian Nate Bargatze, nobody knows. And if you you'll get that if you're an SNL fan, you'll get that. And if not, just look up SNL Nate Bargatze. Exactly. That's my best. That's where I think I see it going. That's my best advice based off of the conversations that I'm having in the market, and I'm really excited to see where this is going, and I'll help our clients strategize around their third-party risk management program and get them there.
Indeed. Well, we have about 60 seconds left. So before we go, where can people go to learn more?
Okay, so let me do so diligent.com, or find me if you're listening to this and you're at the event. Please, and you want to talk to me, please come find me. If you're not watching the video, I'm the guy with the mullet and the Magnum PI mustache.
It's a great mustache, man. Seriously.
Thank you. I appreciate it. But also, just a couple of quick plugs. So, Diligent just acquired Spark Compliance. Christy Grant Hart, founder and CEO of Spark Compliance. I've been working with her for 10 years. I'm really excited about that. Ellen Hunt is on a panel for promoting psychological safety at 3:30 this afternoon, I believe, in International Ballroom E. And we're going to be running a compliance virtual summit. Don't worry, we're not competing with GES. But if you want to learn more about or hear from Diligence customers around what makes a successful compliance officer, what makes them successful in their job, how to advance your career, learn more from Christy Grant Hart around best practices. We're going to have a few sessions like that. You can look up Diligent virtual compliance series or Diligent virtual event series online. You'll be able to find more information there.
Fantastic. Well, Daniel, thank you so much for joining us today. We sure appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Bill.
Everyone, this has been a live edition of the Ethicast coming to you from the Global Ethics Summit here in Atlanta. I'm your host, Bill Kaufman. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye now.